All right. So I have Mr. Leunammi on screen. He is to the left of my cute little doggo at the bottom right of the screen. And we will be going over the Origins Season 4 patch notes. All right.
Hello.
Right. First slide, disclaimer, these changes represent current thinking. Final values may be adjusted as required and depending on feedback as well. The intent of this preview is to allow players to know what direction these changes are taking and to gather opinions on these changes. So,
And we should add another disclaimer that this is our opinion and not financial advice.
correct.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just remember, guys, none of this is financial advice. We're only here to entertain and educate. Next slide. Anything unmentioned in this presentation are unchanged at the time of the last edit. This is a community-made document and there may be discrepancies. Okay, so let's go through this. There's quite a lot to go through. We're starting off with the Aqua cards. So there are two changes, Gill and Catfish. So Gill, there's not really much to talk about here. Base damage is increased to 25. So this is now a 75 damage card if 3 Axies get hit. So it's just straight up
a lot.
Not much change with the interaction of the card. It just has more value. So just move on. Next slide is Catfish. So same thing. It's now base 75 card if there are 3 targets. So I don't know.
Still give bubbles, right?
Yeah, they still give bubbles. This slide only mentions changes that are made to the card. They don't talk about the card. I mean, we can go over the document.
No, this is fine.
It's fine. All right then.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Nothing too noteworthy. These are just cards that are underrepresented in the meta. So Sky Mavis thought that it would be nice to give them buffs, or at least I think that's what they're thinking. You know, underutilized cards should definitely get some love, and that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, but take note that this is AoE card. So 5 is actually very big for AoE.
Additional
Times 3 is
15.
already 15.
Yeah.
So if you compare 60 to 75 without the bubble bonus damage already. So it's very, very big change in my opinion.
I mean, yeah, from 60 to 75 damage, that is pretty big, I agree. But I don't know if that's enough to be compelling enough for you know, other Axies or players, the established teams to change these cards.
Yeah. We'll see later.
Yeah,
with the other balance changes.
Yep. Alright, let's move on. Next are beast cards. Ooh, this is the juicy part. Lots of beast cards got buffed. So first one is Hero. Base damage reduced to 65. It was 70. And now it has a new effect. Limit 3. Put 1 random attack card from your draw pile into your hand. And what are your thoughts, Mr. Luna?
Okay, I am a hero card user.
Okay.
Just because I run a lot of zero cost and I don't want my hand to be. I don't want to be put in a situation I cannot play anything. So hero was good, but now it was much better. Just because you don't have any condition that you need to fulfill. Instantly draws 1 random attack card.
Yeah, I agree.
And in never comes especially. Last time you can only play early bird blue moon. But now you can play early bird hero. And I think hero is better just because it guarantees you an attack card.
Yeah, that's very important. That's a very important aspect of this change. You're always guaranteed an attack card, as opposed to before, where you had to guess. So if you look at your draw pile, there's 2 shields and an attack card. You want the attack card to come out. So with this new change, you're guaranteed that attack card. You're not gonna draw the shields or the other utility cards in your draw pile. So that's a very important distinction. And I'm getting ahead of myself here, but you know, people are in Twitter, they're talking about since Holy Prayer got nerfed. I mean, I'm getting really far ahead here. But so the expectation is that Jinx and Curse teams will be much stronger. So if you're in your second cycle, you draw a hero, you're guaranteed an attack card in addition to your hero. Yeah,
Correct.
you're not gonna draw a curse card or another jigs. So if you draw this, you're guaranteed at least 2 attack cards. So that's a very important thing, or a very important new aspect of this hero change to the hero card.
Yeah, good analysis there. This technically becomes like a soft counter to Jinx comms,
Yeah, yeah,
which is good considering how Jinx is seemed to be OP with the
yeah.
changes later on.
Yep. I really like this change. Very good job. Very, very good job. I like this so much. Let's move on. Next card is Risky Beast. Alright, so Risky Beast literally has no more drawback. Because Risky
From the
Beast is only used on aggro teams. And no one used it before because Deathmark was such a bad debuff. So now that it's applying Hex, and usually Axies that have Risky Beast don't have any utility cards, only attack cards. So there's literally no drawback now. So this is a lot more usable.
from the worst risky card to the best
Yep.
risky card.
Yep. The only problem is that it's a back card, and I know there's a lot of competition for good back cards. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, this is a 90 damage card as opposed to other utility cards that you get on the back. So I think this might have a place now.
Definitely is. Do you want to spoil out the changes to Ronin?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But again, comparing this to the most popular back card, Ronin. Ronin needs to be played last, while Risky Beast need to be played first.
Yeah.
It having a mix of these two should be decent.
Yeah, if you have another Axie with a Ronin, you can use this first, get 90 damage, and then use another card, and then use the Ronin on the other Axie, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Flat 90 damage minimum.
Yeah. As opposed to having 2 Ronins, one of them being subpar damage. Yeah, that's a good change for this. I like the change for Risky Beast. Moving on, next card is Imp. Base damage gained while in Fury form increased to 45. It was 25. That's a big change. And this is base damage. Base damage gets multiplied by a lot of stuff. So
Yeah.
Imp is gonna be really strong now for rage teams. It's still in competition with Little Branch though.
I guess if it's on a support, that because you technically don't want to play 2 costs on your support, you
True.
rather have your little branch on your carry that will ramp up the rage. So a team like Shiba Zen, where or a lot of rage mass, where the support don't need to play any cards and yet get the rage tax, it can be still good.
That's a
And
good
again,
point.
it's retain. So rage teams want to have a perfect fury form,
True.
technically, and having retain and thins your deck kind of helps that in that aspect. So it was already good from the retain alone.
Yeah.
Damage wise, it was 135 on rage mode, but now it's 165. So that's a lot of change without any additional buff.
Yeah, and
It was
just
huge.
it was an underutilized card anyway. And one thing I'd like to point out is that there's a lot of beasts with this horn because of the beast in V2, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of Axies that's getting a benefit from this buff. Not all of them will be able to utilize it because this is only a benefit when you're in Fury form. But they still get a little bit of love, so I'm happy for it.
But I'm more interested in Guide's build. If you remember, he was one of the top players in season 3 that runs front to back comps. So he actually have last 10 mech that has Shiva, Ronin, and Imp.
Yeah.
So the idea was when the mech enters last 10, it will prop Shiva with 4 rage stacks, guaranteed, because you are solo on HP, right?
Yeah.
It will enter you Fury form, you deal you Shiva, then Ronin. Oh, Shiva, Imp, then Ronin.
Yeah.
That guarantees you a double kill, I think, in most cases.
Yeah.
just because how much damage Im do now.
Mhm. Yeah. You know, if Shiba doesn't kill by itself, Imp will definitely finish the job.
Yeah, like Shiva 4 stacks to everyone enter rage mode, and yeah, it's crazy rage turn.
Mm-hmm. It's a very interesting point. Yeah. So there you go. More tools for Fury mode. It's not just something that AoE teams use. Front to back teams can actually use this now.
Mhm.
Alright, let's move on. Next card is Ronin. Base damage increased to 45, was 40, and cap on energy spent has been removed. Alright, so just a straight up buff to Ronin. No questions asked. It's just more damage. What?
Yeah, and it raised the question, right? What's the
Mhm.
thought behind this? Was it because people think it's impossible to ramp up the energy on Ronin that much
Mm,
anyways? That's why they removed the energy spend cap.
you know, that's the thing, because the energy cap was 5, right? And not many aggro teams can reach 5 energy anyway. So you have 3 base, and then you rage, and then you use a cotton tail, so that's already 5, right? And
Mhm.
most of the time after that 5 energy burst, they just play with the remaining 3 energy that they have, right? So to me, the cap of 5 was non-existent in the first place. Not many teams can reach 6 energy, especially aggro teams. So it was a very artificial kind of cap, because in
Yeah,
practice no one goes
true.
over it anyway. So to me, it really didn't matter. What's more important is that Ronin has 5 base damage increase. That's an additional 2 damage per energy, right? Just for the base.
Yeah, per energy, yeah.
Mm,
But considering Ronin is a multiplier,
yep.
it goes up from 40 to 80 at 3 energy,
Mhm,
becomes 90 to 3 energy. That's
mhm,
really huge. But if I remember correctly, Ziliasa was the one who broke Ronin
mhm.
with his furball combo, with hyper
Mm,
aggro furball combo.
mhm.
That's why they put the cap of 5 energy on that, because he just
Ah,
ran furball,
okay.
and other cards, Cottontail and Ronin.
Yeah, I remember that. All right, that's a good point. I did forget about the interaction with Furball. So thank you for bringing that up. That's actually pretty interesting. So now Furball Ronin.
Yeah. And furball is already high damage back.
It
It's
is.
80 flat,
Mm-hmm.
and with this direct buff and indirect buff to furball, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if furball will have more place. Maybe as a supporting card or two other axes. It's a good card to help you with your energy fragment RAM also.
Interesting. That's a very good point. I didn't even think of that. All right. Okay, so that's the last of the beast cards. Let's move on to the bird cards. So there's 5 cards that have been changed. Start with the first one. Feather Spirit. It was completely reworked. Base damage increased to 33, was 30, and now it has a new effect. It deals 2 hits, so that's 66 base damage for Feather Spear now, without feather damage and anything. And now it grants 1 feather per spear card in your deck to all allied spear card owners. So this is a shared effect to all Axies that have spear cards. So we'll get to them for the plant and for the reptile. But for now, let's focus on Feather Spear. The only Axies that I know of that use Feather Spear are owls. So now that this change is applied, I think it's both a buff and a nerf at the same time, depending on the team composition of the owl. So if the owl team has more than 1 spear in their lineup, they're basically not affected, right?
Mhm.
But if it's a solo owl with only 1 feather spear, it's a nerf, and they have to redo the team. They have to replace 2 axes to gain the full benefit of this. So, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts, Mr. Lunami?
Okay, I'm a big bird clan fan,
Mm-hmm.
so I've been using birds. Uh, for me, Feather Spear is a very important card. Yes, as you mentioned in owl teams, just because owl is very slow at the start, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the only card that saved them is Feather Fan,
Yep.
which which is a super high damage burst, but requires a lot of feathers to work. Feather Spear was the saving grace for Feather Fan, just
Mhm.
because how much feathers it can generate.
Yeah.
But now with these changes, yes, as you mentioned, you cannot run a single Feather Spear anymore. You need the whole team to carry
Yep.
Spear cards. Else, I don't see how it will work because the requirement for Feather Fan is a lot of feathers. And
Mhm.
yep, even Feather Spear with drinks, solo Feather Spear with energy per drinks only give you 3. And
Yeah.
that's not enough because you
It's
need at least 4
uh-huh.
for Feather Fan to
Mhm.
actually retain the damage at the end of the turn. It's kind of a huge nerf, but I like the synergy, especially later on when we talk about the runes.
Mhm.
I think I see where they're changing the bird clan into.
Yeah. For me personally, I know I having not used an Axie with Feather Spear. I know. I'm neutral on this one. It's both good and bad. It's good because it's shaking up the meta for owls. It's bad because people that already have established owl teams and only one Feather Spear, they're not gonna be happy.
Yeah.
Mm.
Another comment that is common is what would the other two axes use the feather for? It is
Mm,
quite
yeah.
useless in other axes, especially in a single axis dependent, like hyper
Mm,
carry. You see your owl cards, you want to play them. You don't really want to play your other
true.
cards axis. So
Hmm.
what do they use the feathers for? Unless the other two are dependent on feathers also.
Yeah, maybe a new type of owl team will come out.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I'm prepared for it,
the J
but
Merchant did a build before in season 3. He used it in Rare and Epic, I think, and then before because in Mystic he switched to Poison, right? So the J
yeah,
Merchant he had a double carry setup, well, a semi carry. So his reptile had tri spikes, and it was supposed to act. So it did its taunt, so it generated its blood spike. So if the owl gets killed, he still has a secondary win condition with the tri spikes from the back, right? So
yeah,
maybe something like that. Because if that tri spikes also gets the orange feather buff, right? So in addition to the blood spikes, he also gets the orange feathers. Maybe that build will get stronger. It's not really popular, right? Because owls was not non-existent in Mystic era. So maybe we'll
it's
see.
just too slow.
Yeah, maybe we'll see a resurgence in Rare and Epic in season 4. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it might even be usable in Mystic. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll find out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's it for Feather Spear. Let's move on to the next one. We are looking at Trump adjusted. Base damage was reduced to 18. It was 25. Hits dealt increased to 4. It was 3. So you get one more hit, but the base damage was reduced from 75 to 72. Uh, you first, Mr. Nanami. What are your thoughts on
Okay,
this card?
so this really want to push bird as the
Mm-hmm.
multi-hit class
Yep.
because if you see the damage, raw damage, yes, it is decreased from 75 to 72. But if you consider the buff from the orange feathers, this is actually a massive buff.
It is. I agree.
Imagine plus 20 damage per hit.
Mm-hmm.
So from 45 times 3, it becomes 38 times 4.
Mm-hmm. So big
It's,
damage.
yeah, it's a huge buff actually in that
Yeah.
aspect.
And another thing I'd like to point out: if you're using Trump instead of Feather Spear on your owl, you have a card that instantly generates 4 feathers for you. 4 orange feathers.
Yeah.
Instead of having to wait for your owls to start ramping up, you have one at 4 right at the start. Assuming you use it. I'm not
Yeah.
sure how optimal you having a trump is on an owl.
But again, it's competing against Feather Spear.
Yeah.
So
So
we'll see.
yeah, I like this change. So they buff, I mean, sort of buff Feather Spear, but they also gave it competition with this trump change. So I know it gives
Mhm.
players options or gives players something to think about. So I like this change.
Kind
Right.
of give people the budget version that
Mm-hmm.
is also competitive.
Ooh, yeah. All right. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is Cloud. Cloud has been reworked. It now has a base heal of 5 HP, and it has a new effect. It's a retain card now. Target any ally. If there are less than 5 feathers on the target, grant 2 feathers. Otherwise, add 1 feather dagger to your hand. Alright. Okay, so I'll go first this one. Okay,
Okay,
I
what do you think about this?
really like this change. First,
Okay,
it
why?
has 5 HP now. That means you can put White Sage on this.
Correct.
You can put White Sage or Bean's Blessing if you want to remove curses. If there's a curse heavy meta, which there might be, you can put
Mhm.
Bean's Blessing on this and get 1 HP off of the heal, which doesn't really matter, right? So you
Yeah.
have a free cleanse or a free curse removal with Cloud. And then it's now a retain card, so you can just wait for the opportune time to use it. You don't have to use it immediately. So that's another buff to it. So if you have a Bean's Blessing on it and it's turn 1, you don't have to use the Cloud. You can wait for a curse to come into your deck before you use this. I mean, retain is just a good keyword all around. So it's just so much stuff. And then there's that 1 feather dagger bonus, right? So if you have less than 5 feathers on your target, if you have more than 5 feathers on your target, you give that Axie a feather dagger. So if you put this on your owl, that's a free 25 damage card, assuming it's a bird without any other buffs, right?
20, not 25.
No, 5 base damage from the feather dagger and then 20 from the orange
Oh, yeah,
feathers.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad.
So this effectively counts as a damage card with the right conditions, and it's a 0 cost, right?
Mm-hmm.
So lots of good stuff happening with Cloud. I really like this. How about you, Mr. Nair? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree. Having the keyword retain itself already very strong. Not to mention the heal, as you mentioned. Now you can give
Mhm.
it a cleanse, give it a curse removal.
Mhm.
Everything just good in general. Like everything, if you add flexibility to card, it just makes it good in general.
Mhm.
Then, yeah, as you mentioned, you have the free damage from Feather Dagger,
Mhm.
25 free damage for 0 cost. That's quite a lot.
Mhm.
And it can, okay, not to mention the Feather Dagger gives a banish.
Mhm. Oh
Uh,
right.
uh, but again, this is a tail card
Mhm.
competing with Cottontail,
Mhm.
Feather Fan. So yeah, but I see this change is very, very good.
Yeah.
I'm already theory crafting in my head.
One important distinction between Cloud and Cottontail, Cloud does not get removed from the game after one use.
Yeah,
So you have a constant source of either Bean's Blessing or White Sage.
yeah,
So,
that's another good point. Free, and it's free
yep, it's free
as
for sure.
compared to, for example, Puppy Eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Puppy Eyes does not have any stats to it,
Mm-hmm.
so you cannot actually put White Sage or Pin's Blessing.
Yep.
So Cloud might is better in a sense.
Yep. So Cottontail might have competition, at least for birds or feather dependent builds. Probably not going to replace Cottontail for the existing AoE Winghorn teams. But who knows? There might be a new archetype, maybe an owl team with Cloud. Doesn't feel bad anymore. Or a triple owl with Cloud, because if you're running an owl or an owl Axie, you want the feather fan tail, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you get so much value out of it. But now with Cloud, if you have a lot of feathers, you actually gain a feather dagger. So it's not as strong as feather fan, obviously, but you get a free attack, and you get a little bit of healing and whatever charm you put on it. So there's an argument to be made for Cloud now.
Yeah, it can be a budget version, right?
Mhm.
If ever Feather Fan version gets too expensive, and
Yep.
considering how Feather generation is very hard right now,
Mhm.
Cloud can be an option.
Yep, I agree. Right, I think that's everything we can talk about with Cloud. Let's move on to the next card, which is the last one. Base damage increased to 70, it was 65, and it has a new effect. If this is the only attack card in your hand, deal 10 bonus damage per non-attack card. Very important, non-attack card in your hand. Alright, so when I first saw this, I was like, what? Why attack card? Why do you want a non-attack card? And then I thought, what kind of builds can have 9 cards in their hand that are non-attack cards? And then obviously it would be sustain cards or sustain teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking maybe this is an alternative to the tiny fan dependent or the tiny fan build sustain build, or it can be a supplement to the tiny fan sustain build. Because in addition to sometimes tiny fan by itself doesn't win you the game, but if you're at 6 6 energy, you can use tiny fan and then use the last one, right? Or use the last one and then use tiny fan, whichever order is more appropriate for the situation.
Yeah, it seems really weird at first
Mhm.
for the deck because it's not, again, not attack card, and last one,
Mhm.
the old effect was it deals bonus damage if it's the last attack card, right?
Mhm.
So it kind of make it easier to achieve this bonus damage as
Mhm.
that it's smaller. But again, what team is it running with?
True.
Uh, for me, I think it's because birds have a lot of summons like Mavis,
Mhm.
Robin, and maybe they want to push Kingfisher, the shield, 85 damage on birds.
Mhm.
But other than that, yeah, as you mentioned, one adaptive mech front maybe, the one that only run shield just for the energy ram, then
Mhm.
the bird run as a hyper carry with last one and all the other attack cards.
Mhm.
Mainly the deck will be shields. That's what I'm thinking of. And I
Okay.
have a secret build, but
Secret build.
I'll save that for later when we talk about runes and jumps.
Okay. Right. It also, I mean, we have to compute for the damage, right? So it's 70 base, and you can have 9 other cards in your hand after you use this, right? So the total damage is 160 without any other effects.
Yeah.
For 1 energy. I think that's pretty good. But we have JJ here in the chat, and he's our resident expert on sustain teams. He's saying that Twin Tail and Potato Leaf are far more important than an extra damage card, which I agree with. Even Fishknack as well, and I agree. But maybe this is something that can open up a path to a new type of sustain. An aggro sustain, if that makes sense.
Just to
Because
copy him.
if you think about it, there's one other mechanic that can work with this. Uh, if you are using Rise and Ruin and you have Forest Wrath, if you have 4 of those in your hand and then you have this, and then you draw your other 5 cards, assuming you don't have any other retains, right?
Mhm.
So you can have the damage from Forest Wrath and the last one. So,
Interesting. Forest rough.
yeah, so how much damage is that? I can't really compute, but it's a lot of damage. Enough to kill in Blood Moon for sure. For sure.
Interesting. So a mid range, not kinda.
Yeah. I don't know if a aggro sustain would even make sense, but the potential is there. It's up to the really big brain players to make it functional or viable.
I guess it's more for budget. If you run an agrocom and
Yeah, yeah.
if you want to talk about soft counter to Jinx,
Hmm.
yeah, imagine you have a lot of Jinxes in
True.
your hand
That is
and
also true.
you're running an agrocom.
Yo, Bamsa,
It
thank you
is
for the
going to
follow,
up.
dude. That's also a good point. This is like another soft counter to Jinx. Because
Mhm.
if your entire hand is just Jinxes, right? So this is assuming you retain this, so you have 5 other cards. This is 120 damage.
Mhm. A good finisher for
Yeah.
one cost. Yeah.
Or at least an attack that does substantial damage if you have only Jinxes in your hand.
Hmm.
A very good point. Okay, let's move on to the next one. The next card is post fight. It now loses 15 HP instead of 20, so more value. I don't think anyone was really avoiding this card because of the HP loss. It's more of there's a lot of really good cards that can be played. Right?
Yeah, it's competing against hair,
Mm-hmm.
feather fan on birds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, birds are generally multi-hit,
Mm-hmm.
but I was running this on season 3 and the 20 damage to 15 is quite huge for me
Mm-hmm.
because of the combo post fight to Hungry Bird.
Mm-hmm.
So these two cards are very high value cards, and with this change, one Hungry Bird can cover
Mm-hmm.
the negative effects of one post fight,
Mm-hmm. I mean, we.
and I like
Uh, go ahead.
yeah. So interesting build because post fight has high damage,
Mm-hmm.
and people normally run this with the Bird Mystic Charm, the
Mm-hmm.
Shuriken.
Mm-hmm.
It easily deals. Oh, okay. With additional runes, for example, the Sharp Talent, for example,
Mm-hmm.
post fight alone deals 130 something damage,
Mm-hmm.
and the Mystic Charm will deal additional splash 45 damage.
Yeah. Actually,
So
since you brought up the Shuriken, having 160 damage card splash,
yeah,
the potential is there. It's not really a splash, I guess, because it's not
it's not
across
to
the.
everyone,
Yeah, it's not to
just
everyone.
one
Yeah,
random target.
yeah, it's like an extra effect or a partial splash, I guess, would be more appropriate. But yeah. And also, corn salad. Thank you for the follow, dude. Hope you're having a good time this stream. Okay, anything else to talk about post fight?
No, so
Okay, let's move on to the next category, which is to the bug cards. There are 4 changes to bug cards. 2 of them I like. 2 are. Let's not. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go to the cards. All right. So Buzz Buzz. Bonus damage per discarded or banished card is increased to 10. It was a 6. Okay.
do you like it?
Hmm. I mean, it's obvious. It's a buff, right? So there's not really much to complain about it. Uh,
But it is huge buff.
it is a huge buff. I agree. But is it a big enough change to make players want it in their build? Is the question.
Okay, because it is competing with Tri-Feather, right?
Yep.
Uh, okay. When people look at this, they only think of AoE,
Mm-hmm.
and for AoE to be strong, they need feathers.
Mm-hmm.
And how to generate feathers is Tri-Feather and Grandma Fan normally, right? But Grandma Fan is already kind of contested because there are much better tails like Shrimp, Cottontail, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, normally people just run Shrimp and Cottontail.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't run Grandma Fan, they rely on Tri-Feather because Tri-Feather alone normally generates 2 to 3 feathers each. So normally it's more than enough.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So are you
Mm-hmm.
saying Buzz Buzz is better than Tri-Feather such that people will run back to Grandma Fan in
Mm-hmm.
AoE team?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on the build, right?
Mhm.
Because they need Tri-Feather to generate the feathers, otherwise the AoE team doesn't work. So does that mean they have to sacrifice their tail slot for Grandma's fan?
But
That's
Grandma Fan only generate 1,
Yep.
and Tri-Feather can possibly generate up to 3, right?
Yep. I mean, even with the Grandma's fan the feather fan charm, that's only 2 from Grandma's fan. Really, really difficult to balance out. Also,
Yes.
we also have to look at this. So Buzz Buzz, oh, it's really small. I don't know how to make it this bigger. All right, so the damage cap for Buzz Buzz was not changed. It still caps at 30. That means if you use if you use two cards and then you use an effect or a zero cost, you're dealing 50 damage on one Axie. So that's 150 damage across all Axies without any additional effects. That's pretty strong. That's actually
Yeah,
pretty strong.
it is strong.
Mhm.
So yeah, you can run two Tri-Fighters on the support and your carry, for example, your rich
Mhm.
EABs running the bus,
Mhm.
maybe. Or if you look at another archetype, uh, the one that's run bus is actually bleed AoE
Oh, right. They do.
So bleed AoE they don't use Tri-Fighter just because they want
Mhm.
multi-hit doesn't proc the Brutal Claw, if I remember correctly, that's the name of the rune.
Mhm.
Only AoEs. So they run Purge or Bus, but Bus is of course a better option.
Yeah, for sure.
So this buff and with the changes later on the runes, maybe bleed AoE is back.
Mhm. That's a very interesting take. So we're Buzz is not intended for the existing archetype of AoE. It's intended for other archetypes that have yet to come out,
Mm-hmm.
or the ones that already exist but are not strong enough to compete with the existing meta.
Yeah. So I like this change. It's just underutilized card for now,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to push something new.
Yeah. It's a very interesting perspective. Thank you for that. All right, so Code Zero is in the chat. He says, I face against Winghorn plus Buzz Rage Beast. It hits around 240 plus damage. Okay, 240 damage across the entire team. That's definitely strong. Definitely strong.
Balance,
Yeah.
very balanced.
Because if you think about it, 50 is already a one energy card. 50 damage is a one energy card with a good effect. This is a
Mm-hmm.
one energy card that does 50 to all enemies. And it's a base. No, it's not. Okay, it's only bonus damage, so it doesn't get affected by a lot of stuff, but still.
It's
That's,
still flat 50.
yeah, still pretty good. Base, and not base 50, but vanilla damage is 50. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very. Yeah, but you do need to have zero costs or lumbers or pure waters or feather daggers or something to always get those three cards before you use the buzz. Or if you can just get burst one really fast, so that you can use three cards, three one costs, and then use buzz. So that works too.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, this is a buff card.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see later the buff to Fate Maker also, maybe they're trying to push Banish comp
Mm-hmm.
and or discard comps.
Mm-hmm.
And this really easily procs bus.
I mean, if you look at hold on, if you look at the card, this actually has antenna. Maybe it's a hint.
Yes.
Maybe it's a hint, guys.
Definitely hinting something.
No joke, guys. It's a joke. It's not really a hint. All right, let's move on to the next card. All right, Thorny Caterpillar. Base damage increased to 120. It was 110, so 10 buffed by 10 damage, and its bonus damage has been adjusted to 10 damage per goo instead of needing 3 goos for 30 damage. So it I think it's much needed change because getting goo is so awkward. So for example, if you use the ear breathing card, which costs 2, and you only hit 2 axes with it feels really bad because your 20 caterpillar isn't getting extra value, right? So
Mhm.
now that it's 10 damage per extra goo and you have an extra 10 added to it by default, I think it's much better than it is. How about you? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so the better Gukoms I see is the one that is defensive.
Mm-hmm.
Just because adaptive program, then you can get
Mm-hmm.
energy ramp,
Yep.
and by surviving as long as possible, you can have more values of your goo because goo is
Mm-hmm.
the only first card that is not removed
Mm-hmm.
at the end of your turn if you don't use it.
Yep.
So that's where I feel it's awkward. Maybe as a finisher card, Thorny is good,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, normally it's already running on very defensive comp in the first place.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess only as a finisher. But yeah, it's a good change regardless, because now the damage increase is not dependent on multiples of 3. It's just more flexible whenever you want to use it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you want to put this on retain so that you can use it whenever.
Mhm.
Okay, so one thing that I'd like to point out is that since it's 10 damage per goo, there's actually a reason for your opponent to remove the goo from their deck. Because usually, if you have goo on your deck, you just let it be, right? You just don't even care about it. But now, since it's 10 damage per goo, if you use a goo, you actually reduce the damage of Thorny Caterpillar by 10. So there is strategic incentive for the recipient of the goo to actually remove the goo from their deck, right?
Maybe they're also pushing aggro goo. Who
Maybe.
knows?
I don't know if aggro goo will become a thing, but it's subject to RNG because you can't really guarantee you can get one up to 4 goo from ear breeding. You're not guaranteed any of those. Can get 4, can get 1, can get 3. You can't really guarantee it. So it's a very RNG based team. So it's either you get 160 damage or 150 damage on your first caterpillar, or you just gain the base 130 or something. It's either gonna feel really great or feel really bad.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Goo is really works in season 0.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they do have that charm that adds goo, right? So maybe in Mystic, maybe, I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Code Zero says goo is in an awkward spot, but still can be great. We don't know yet. Probably during Epic Era or the Mystic Era. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Code Zero. Okay. Yeah. Let's move on to the next one. Ooh, this is a juicy one. Earwing base damage reduced to 15 was 20. What do you think, Mr. Leunammi? Is this the AoE nerf that everyone was waiting for?
Okay, so right now Earwing is hitting for like 45 to 50 damage easily per Axie. With this change, okay, let's reduce that number by 5, 40 to 45. Does that make a huge change? I don't know, but is it a good change? Yeah, I feel so. It doesn't make the card dead, but who knows that 5 to 10 damage maybe is important to make you less than 50% HP. That is going to be the trigger point for Winghorn. Maybe that a bit of HP will make you green instead of red in your HP bar.
Okay.
So it's good change, I guess. It's not killing.
Yeah. Okay. So personally, I think the earwing change is nice. It's not great, but losing 5 base damage can maybe matter in, I don't know, maybe 10, 20%, 30% of AoE games where their target lives by 5 HP. And that's the only time that you'll notice the nerf. And I'm personally, it's a nerf to AoE for sure, but it doesn't kill the archetype. It just weakens it a tiny bit. And I think in terms of balance, that's what that's what we need, right?
Agree.
Toning
And
down but not killing.
And if you consider the alternative we saw earlier, heal, as both ER cards and both are AoE. So let's say consider the base damage of Earwing is 20 plus the effect. Let's say on the normal scale, you have 5 cards. That's plus 15 damage, right? Which is now 30 instead of 35. Compare that to kill, that is 25 base, but give you 1 bubble. Normally, 1 bubble is equivalent to like 2 to 4 damage. Stack. So that is already quite comparable between the two.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is it a big enough reason for AoE teams to revamp? Probably not. AoE teams that are already established will probably still get used. They will be weaker a little bit, but is it's probably going to matter. Probably, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's going to matter in a small number of games, very small number of games. Okay,
I
all right,
agree. Yeah,
people, guys, stop asking for AOE to die. It's already it's already on its last legs. This is one of the nails. It's not the last nail, but it's one of the nails on its coffin. It's not going to die, but it's not as strong as it was. Right? Okay, let's move on. Next card is hold on. Oh, Larva. All right. It's been reworked. Only banishes after discarding a skill or a secret card. So previously, if you used Larva and you didn't banish any, or you didn't scry for anything, the Larva will still get used. So sometimes if you want to use the Larva to scry, it kind of feels bad because if you only get two good attack cards, your Larva is basically wasted. You just know that you're going to get good cards on your next draw. Sometimes that's useful, sometimes it's not. But you lost one of your cards for it. So now that it's going to stay in your deck unless you unless you scry a skill or a secret card, it stays in your deck. Now, I'm all for options. I really like having options. This is one of the few cards that lets the player choose the effect. At least now that it's been reworked. I really like this change because combo players, like, those players that make really strong combo decks, they can actually use this now more than once if they so choose. It's, I don't know, it's the effect or the impact isn't really something that you can quantify because sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. But, you're in control of what the card does, and you're in control if it gets banished or not. So I don't know. I really like this, but Mr. Leunammi, what are your thoughts on this?
yeah, I agree on that. And I would like to add on seeing how Fate Maker is
Mm.
changed later
Mm-hmm.
on also.
True.
By not discarding by not banishing Larva,
Mm-hmm.
you technically have a zero cost
Mm-hmm.
that buffs two of your cards.
True. You don't get to
And
use it
it's
in that cycle, but when you get it back on the second cycle, it's 10% stronger.
yeah, so your Larva basically a zero cost that keep buffing your other cards
Mm-hmm.
just because it doesn't get banished
Yeah.
at the end of the time.
For example, we have this card, the card that we were just talking about, right?
Yes,
You most of the time you don't want to use Thorny Caterpillar on the first cycle anyway, because there's not much value.
correct.
So why not discard it and make it a 132 base damage card, in
Yes,
addition to the 10 damage per goo? Right?
correct. Yeah, that's actually one of my theory crap.
Yeah. Yo, Machizo, welcome to the stream, dude. Hope you're enjoying the show. There you go. Larva is, yeah, it's definitely a more interesting card now. Especially, you made a good point. I forgot about Fate Maker and its interaction with Larva. Yeah,
Mhm.
because the other scry cards or the other cards that discard from your own deck, they're one-time use.
Correct.
So the what's that card? The not telescope. The nerdy card or the what's the aqua version of nerdy?
Clear.
Clear eyes. Yeah. So those are one-time use cards, but larva can be used multiple times. Not that you'll want to anyway, because the game usually ends by the third cycle anyway. But yeah, if you get really lucky and you get to discard your larva, I mean, there are ways to guarantee it for sure, right? I mean, bookworm exists, so you can guarantee that your thorning is in the next two cards that you can discard with larva, right?
Mhm.
So there are ways, there are combos that you can do with this. I don't know if focusing on thorny caterpillar as the recipient of larva is the play, but I'm just giving out an example, a very simple example of what larva can do.
Yeah, I agree. I
Mhm.
think that's how they want to give the direction to
Mhm.
Bucks from Fate Maker point of view.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so Machizo, okay, so you're new. Yo, Trix ZA, welcome. Thank you for the raid. Wow, this is loud. Fate Maker works if your card was discarded. Probably not. Machizo, probably not. All right, well, we'll just wait for the raid sound to finish. All right, it's done. All right, Strix, thank you so much for the raid. Welcome, raiders. My name is Grawrz. I'm a Filipino streamer, and we are going through the patch notes for season 4. Thank you, Strix. Thank you. All right, we are. How far in are we? Where is it? We're about 40% of the way. Is this stream that they released earlier? What do you mean by that, Algin? This is the patch notes that was released 2 days ago. And this is currently a live stream. We're actually recording this live. I will be putting this on YouTube. So, if you chat now, you'll show up in YouTube eventually. You'll see yourself on YouTube. All right. Okay. Thank you for the raid. How was your stream, Strix? Hope you had a wonderful time. Hold on. Let's give you a shout out. What was the game, or what were you streaming earlier? Check it out. You were last playing Axie. Oh, I see. Okay then. All right, thank you for the raid, Strix. Hold on, let me give you the other shout out so that people can follow you. There you go. All right, guys, there's a heart icon that popped up on your screen. Click that heart icon right now to follow Strix. I'll go do that now too. There you go. Thank you, Strix, for the raid. All right. Okay, Mr. Leunammi, are you good? Let's continue.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Next card is. Oh, there's no next card for bugs. The next the next class is the next set of changes are for plant cards. So we have bamboo, strawberry shortcake, leafy, and potato leaves. Let's go at Bamboo Spear. So this was also changed. It gets 5 additional damage, and similar to Feather Spear, it gives 1 leaf. Feather Spear gives a feather. Bamboo Spear gives leaves to all allied Axies that have spear cards. So what are your thoughts on this?
Okay. The minimum buff also comes from the damage, but I think the new effect change is super strong. Leaf is much better than feathers, in my opinion, utility-wise. Like, it heals. For example, if you have 3 leaves, it already heals for 12.
Yeah.
Which is very, very good. It kind of free healing force for your team, and you can upgrade the effect over time.
True.
So I like this change, but I'm not sure what team will use it for other than leafy base form maybe, or the bird, the tri-owl with miracle leaf. But again, I think that one, the bird, you still need to run a feather spear instead of bamboo spear.
Yeah.
So you can see the options.
I mean, the first thing that came to mind when I saw this was that leafy teams are back. 1 bamboo spear on, if you have 3 leafy Axies with bamboo spears, 1 bamboo spear guarantees that you are fully loaded for all 3 of your leafies.
Correct.
So, and you won't feel bad because you're guaranteed to get another 6 somewhere in your deck because you have 2 more bamboo spears, right? So this is such a strong change for plants in general. I don't know. I really like this. I mean, if you are using again, we're going back to owl because there are a variant of owls, the plant owl that uses miracle leaf, like you mentioned. So if you use this, you give your owl an instant 3 damage. Without having to do anything else. You just give it straight up 3 damage.
And that's very strong.
It is, because whatever that leafy or that owl has is just gonna be so much better. Yeah, I mean, no, JJ, it's not that you don't need Pappy anymore. I mean, you can change Pappy out if you choose to, but this is in addition to Pappy because Pappy is still a retain card. It's still 50 heal, in addition to the leaves. So maybe that 50 heal is something you need so that you can play one more card, or you can have one more turn or something. So there's still a place for a Pappy, but you don't need 3 Pappies anymore for sure. Maybe one Pappy in addition to the bamboo spears. It would blossom. True. I mean, you can have both. There are 3 Axies. You have 3 eye slots. So yeah, I like this change. Very, very much needed change. I really think that this a new archetype of spear comps will come out.
Yeah. It will open up a lot of more playstyles.
Yeah,
Maybe spike playstyles though.
yeah,
Leaf playstyle.
yeah. We'll get to the spikes. We'll get to the spikes in a
Yeah.
bit. Okay. All right, that's it for bamboo spear. Let's move on to the next card, which is strawberry shortcake. Base heal increased to 50. It was 40. So this is now a 150 heal instead of 120 heal. Is it good enough reason to use it though?
Depends on the meta, right? I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
And
healing as an archetype kind of fell to the wayside. Maybe with the what's the healing, the plant healing rune again, the something that overheals.
yeah,
What was the name of that rune? I forgot. Check.
let me check.
Let's check it out. Where is it?
Healing Pulse.
Healing pulse. There you go. This one. All right. So overheal amount granted by this Axie to allied Axies converts to shield on the target and converts to one random damage to one random enemy. So let's say that you have an Axie that is full HP. You use the 2 energy to overheal with strawberry. So that's 150 shield and 150 damage.
No, it's 20% bonus HP also. So it's 180.
Ah.
2 energy for 180 shield and 180 damage. Sounds good.
It does. Is it good enough though? Because remember, one paralyzing glare, and you're kind of screwed, right?
Yeah, and Blood Moon is still a thing.
True. But well, I mean, if it is Blood Moon, that's still 150 damage in addition to whatever else. I mean, you can stack the strawberries. You don't have to do it you don't have to use the strawberries immediately. You can stack them, right?
Yeah, you can stack them.
So, in preparation for Blood Moon, you use it once, hold the strawberries, and then on Blood Moon 90, you use all of the strawberries. So that's 4 strawberries in addition to the base.
What about stacking strawberries with the last one, the bird card?
That is also an option. An aggro. Hold on.
Aggro plan.
Aggro plan with last one. We're really pushing that, aren't we?
160 damage.
Who knows? It might be a meme to us, but maybe someone will actually do it, and maybe it will actually be good. Who knows? We can take credit for it, right? That's how it works, right?
Maybe.
Okay. All right. I'm looking at chat. Hold on. Let's put the screen back on. All right. So chat. Machizo says healing pulse is good for cucumber slice. Yep, that is true. And then JJ says I don't think the strawberry is your heal. I think only the initial heal is counted as your heal. No, JJ. The way it works is that the strawberries copy the base heal of the card itself, right? Hold on, let's pull up the card. Yeah. Here, all right. So it says here that target any ally heal is equal to the base stat of strawberry shortcake. So you can improve strawberry shortcake with the healing charms so that you get even more value out of it. Will it count towards healing pulse? I mean, oh, that's what you meant. Does strawberry belong to the Axie that casted it? That's actually a good question. That's something to test. That is indeed something to test. That's a good point, JJ. Thank you for pointing that out. All right, okay. Right, let's go back. Let's stop this theory crapping.
Yes.
Theory capping. Theory capping. Let's stop that. All right, let's move on to the next card. Leafy. The card that we were talking about just now. Base damage increased to 25. It was 20. So now it's a base 75 damage card. That's already better than a lot of other cards.
Yeah. But the bad thing about Leafy is it's random target.
Yeah, that's definitely a
And
bad thing.
you kinda want to kill one
Mm-hmm.
fast instead of randomly hitting.
True.
So I don't know if this change will make Leafy good, but if the meta is slower and mid-range is a thing, definitely I think Leafy will have a place.
Yeah, I mean, Leafy isn't really that much different from Winghorn in that regard, right?
Yeah.
So Winghorn hits random targets. It's just that Leafy is more relaxed in that you don't get punished if you don't hit the Axie that you want with it. I mean, you don't lose out on mechanics or extra value, right? Because if you use Winghorn and you don't hit a target with less than 50% HP, you don't get the feather daggers, right? But for Leafy, you can just cast it and then whatever it hits, it hits.
Yeah.
So I mean, Leafy as an archetype really fell off last season because
Just because the tempo was so fast.
yeah, Topaz was way too fast. I mean, for the same reason, Owls fell out of the meta, right? Because Topaz is too fast. I mean, even Poison with paralyzing glare was too fast for it. I mean, that's very telling, right? If Poison is faster than your comp, then
It doesn't work.
yeah, it won't work at all for sure. So Leafy having an extra 5 damage times 3, so 75 base damage, definitely much needed love for the card. So with bamboo spear, and with the buff to bamboo spear and buff to Leafy, maybe we'll see a resurgence.
Maybe. Copium.
Yeah, I mean, definitely in rare, we're definitely gonna see Leafy comps for sure. I'm not sure about in epic or mystic, but at least in rare for sure we'll see it. All right, okay, let's move on. Yes, JJ, I'm very well aware that Poison was outpacing AoE. I mean, that's what I was playing. All right, okay, so this is one of the contentious changes. Potato Leaf, a base shield increased to 70. It was 65. And if you look at the card art, the Axie is using the Potato Leaf to block like a waterfall or a water jet or a stream of water. That's a reference to V2, where Potato Leaf prevents Aqua cards from hitting that Axie. Alright, so the most obvious change is that Potato Leaf going to 70 means that adaptive program mechs can now benefit from Potato Leaf. That's the most obvious change to me. But, Mr. Leunammi, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it is already a useful card, Potato Leaf. It especially helps with any com, technically, if you are struggling against front to back. Especially Poisons. Poisons also start using it already just to buy one for turn. It was already good, and the buff just really makes it very easy on as you mentioned, the bit K comps. And you buy one more turn, you gain fragment faster. I'm not sure. I think this is an indirect buff to bit K comps, I guess.
Yeah. And another indirect buff to it is that most shields are 70, right? And most secrets are 70 shield. But Potato Leaf is 5 off. So for the really smart people, that counts the shield amount. For example, if they use something like Healing Force, they know if the shield is a potato leaf because it's 12 less than 65. But now that it's 70 and you have more than 2 secrets on your team, they will have to think twice. Is it a potato leaf or is it something else? Is it scaly spoon? Is it potato leaf? They won't know. Right? So you
Interesting.
effectively camouflage your secrets a little bit better.
Yeah, interesting tech you have there.
Yeah. Okay, so JJ says it's also a plant shield, so you have access to red sage. Yep. How about, an additional 20% bonus to stats? Why not? Why not, right?
That can cleanse.
True.
Surely.
Cleansing on top of bonus stats. Why not, right? I don't know. This is I don't know if it was needed. I really don't know if it was needed. It's such a good card already. But I mean, I use potato leaf. I'm not gonna complain. All right.
Yep.
I think that's it for the cards, right? Oh no, we still have reptile cards. Ooh, how can I forget about reptile cards? So, one of these is my favorite. Let's go to it right now. Reptile cards. Sidebar, reworked. Base damage reduced to 45, it was 50. But now it can target any enemy. It was random before. So let's pull up the card a bit.
As a poison player, what do you think about it?
Oh, I love this change, dude. I love it so much. All right, let's pull it up on screen. There you go. All right, so sidebar. This is the current iteration. So randomly deal 1 hit. So now it's going to be target enemy. Apply 4 poisons. In addition, consume 1 spike to apply 4 bonus poisons. So this was supposed to be an alternative to Small Frill. But now that it's targetable, it's just so much better. Right, so as a poison player, one of the biggest frustrations is that if you use green thorns and all of the poison go to the Axie that is not the one that you want to target. That is one of the biggest frustrations. Yes. So for example, if you use green thorns and you're fighting a bubble team, and all of the poisons go to the front. The front doesn't matter in a bubble team. You want all of the poisons to go to the heart of the ocean carrier, right? So you can't do that. But now with sidebar being targetable, you can just dump 8 poisons all over to the Hoto carrier. Right? I mean, this is also an attack card. So that you can put the venom charm on it. What do you call that? The venom, I forgot the exact name, but the venom charm.
Venom loyalty.
Yeah, hold on. What's it called again? Here you go. Viper's Venom. So the Viper's Venom charm can be used on top of it. So, if you use that, you get a total of 10. A total of 10 poison from using 1. But you do lose out on one spike. So there is a drawback. There is setup needed. It's not just, it's just not a straight up buff. But the mere fact that you can target it, I think it's just so good. It's really, really good.
But yeah, you are competing with Small Frill, which applies 3 to all. So what do you think as a poison player? The meta going to change?
I mean, you have Small Frill on your other axes, and then you have Sidebar on one of your axes. It's not really a competition. Because you're gonna want poison anyway on your other 2 axes. So it doesn't matter if it's another Sidebar or if it's Small Frill or even Innocent Lamb. That can work too.
Yeah. So before, technically, poison gains the most from evenly spreading the damage.
Before, yes.
Kind of like AoE, right?
Before, that is correct.
Yeah, but now I think since the Grawrz Snake changes and now Sidebar changes, you can straight away direct the opponent's carry. And yeah, that's another playstyle that opens up for poison team, I guess.
Yep. The reason that Poison wanted to spread out the poison evenly was because of Gila. Gila was the only finisher card that Poison had before, but now you have Venom Master with the Venom Burst card. You have you want at least 20 debuffs in total on your opponents for the paralyzing glare. So if you have sidebar, you can instantly get 8 or maybe even up to 10 if you put the Viper's Venom Charm, or maybe even more if you're using the Venom Master rune on the Axie that has sidebar. So there's definitely a lot of different ways that you can get extra value from the targeting of sidebar.
Yep.
Again, it's such a good change. It's really good for Epic. Mystic, I don't know yet, but definitely for Epic when Venom Master becomes available.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Right, so this is my favorite change in the entire season 4 patch, by the way. But
I
yeah,
thought you like the one that starts with T.
no. I mean that was needed, but that was a good nerf. This is a really good buff. I really like this. I'm a poison player, so
Yep.
All right, okay, let's move on. I'm done gushing about sidebar. Let's move on. All right, next change: Scaly Spear. Base damage increased to 65. New effect: grant 1 spike per spear card in your deck to all allied spear card owners. So again, this is in the same vein as Feather Spear and Bamboo Spear. What are your thoughts on this?
Technically, okay, talking about damage wise,
Mm-hmm.
1 spike, if you turn it to blood spike, that's 5 damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
On prehistoric it damage.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, the best case scenario, you get 3, you got 24 damage value from 1 card.
Maybe.
Yeah. But talking about raw values, I think leaf, bamboo
Mhm.
one still the best, just
True.
because it's 12 times 3.
Yeah, it's an immediate effect that you almost always get value from. That's true.
Yeah. But still, it's a huge spike enabler because last time we only have Incizel, which attacks yourself and you need to spend energy, which is so weird. Now Scaly Spear can give you the same amount of, almost the same amount of spike, and you deal damage to opponent. So I guess it's good.
Okay. And I mean, we tried it before on stream where we tried to make a tri spike team work. I don't know if you remember that, but at the start of season 3, in the off season of season 2, I tried to make a tri spike team, and it was just way too slow. You had to use Incisor, and you had to attack yourself to get the spikes, right?
Yeah, it feels very awkward spending 1 energy to attack yourself.
True. And now that we have this, and if you have a triple spear setup, you get a total of 9 spikes, or 3 each on each Axie, right? So just from that alone, you can get up to 9 spikes because spikes don't have a cap. It's the only class buff that doesn't have a cap. Because feathers go up to 10, leaves go up to 10, rage goes up to 10, bubbles go up to 5. What am I missing?
Rage.
Yeah. No, I think I said rage, but yeah. So anyway, the point is that this is the only one that scales up indefinitely.
Interesting point you have there.
And again, that's just from the raw stats. If your opponent is using any form of AoE and they attack with an AoE attack, they get reflected 15 damage from all of the spikes.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Especially Tri Spikes is like a very strong card in the first place.
Actually, hold on, JJ. JJ saying that spikes are capped, but blood spikes are not. You know what? Let's go check it out. Check it out. Let's go here. Okay. What's the thing with spikes? I guess.
Incisor.
Here. Spike. Okay. So Spike does have a max stack of 10. That is correct. Okay, then. Okay, then. So I stand corrected. Thank you, JJ. Stand corrected. So Spikes does have a max of 10, but Blood Spikes do not have a max cap. Alright, then. Interesting. Hey, Robocop. Welcome to the stream. So that is still interesting, though. So Blood Spikes. So disregard what I said earlier.
Fake news. Need to cut that out.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. I should have checked that before I said that, but it's okay. Anyway, the point is that having a lot of spears is still good value for tri-spikes. And then you can have maybe one of your spear users have feather spear instead of scaly spear, so that you also get feather value. So that if you use tri-spikes, you not only get value from the spikes, you also get value from orange feathers. So you
Yep.
can mix and
Tri-spikes.
match. You can mix and match, right?
Yeah.
And you can also take advantage of the self-damaging cards so that Gecko Eyes and Wall Gecko get even more value, because you can taunt, or you can taunt with Wall Gecko, or you can trigger the blood spikes yourself, so for even more damage, right?
Mhm.
So there is definitely, and there's potential there for tri spikes to become a thing. There is potential. I'm not sure if it's a viable path, but at least the potential is there, right?
Yeah. Again, we are talking about options here
Mhm.
and how it opens up the play style of different team that we haven't seen before.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's good.
So, Lord Canton, what do you think about the using scaly spoon instead of bumpy in a topaz comp? That's an interesting question, but we'll finish all of the rest of the slides first, Lord Canton, and then we'll get to your question. I'm not an expert on topaz, but I do. I'll give you my thoughts on it after. So just sit tight. We'll get there. I mean, we're about 65% complete, I think.
The runes too.
But that's gonna take a while. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Lord Canton. You might have to wait a while for the answer, but we'll get to it in a bit. Okay. Next card, or the next change, is super spicy. Spicy because it's a nerf to a popular card. And there are two schools of thought about this. One is that it's it's an okay nerf. The other school is that, what is this? Why is this still good? Why isn't it nerfed to the ground? Okay, so personally, I am not a fan of nerfing things to the ground. We saw that happen in season 2, where swirl teams and the entire swirl archetype was just dead in the water after season 2. It was killed. No one is gonna see it ever again. I am not a fan of that, because there are people that invested money into creating farms for swirls, right? And there are people that bought swirl Axies because they saw good value in it, and then now it's dead. They can't use it. That the money that they spent on it is now basically gone, because now those swirl Axies are now floor Axies. So there's not many topaz or perfect topaz Axies. It's just starting to become a thing. So breeders are just starting to make breeding farms for it, so it will become cheaper eventually. Like, if you remember, AoE teams were really expensive in season 1. It became slightly cheaper in season 2, and season 3 it became accessible to a lot more people, right?
Yeah.
So Topaz is in that first step where it's starting to become more prolific to breed, or become more popular for breeding, right? So I'm not a fan of killing any archetype or any team, so I'm okay with this change. Personally, I think Topaz being slowed down by 1 turn is big enough change if you're in the top, I don't know, maybe top 300, because 1 turn can spell the difference against optimized teams. For the lower unoptimized versions, there's probably not much of the difference isn't really that big, I think.
Oh shit. I shouldn't shut up.
Yeah, don't worry about it. The bot is broken. It's okay.
Okay.
Right. Thank you for the follow. Red TV, Lord Canton. Thank you so much. And wait, was that an Alviki raid? No, it's not an Alviki. Oh, they got raided. Welcome to the stream, Mr. Alviki. We're just going through the patch notes. But yeah, Mr. Leunammi, what are your thoughts on Topaz?
Okay, to put it simply on numbers, you used to need only 8 cards
Yep.
to get the maximum potential. Now you need 10.
Mhm.
So how is that huge? Because on non-optimized topaz comms, you can easily only get 9,
True.
which is from Innocent Lamb, Nemo, copying Nemo, then the Nemos.
Yep.
So you can easily get 9. And before, because to reach the maximum unit 8, you easily get max value all the time. But now with 10, if you're running an unoptimized topaz com, you cannot basically reach the maximum damage.
True.
Or if else, you need to banish one more card other than the broken Nemo Lamb cycle. So that's the only nerf, I think, but it shouldn't matter much for optimized com, especially those pro players use. So yeah, it's a good change. It doesn't change much, but doesn't kill the card. But yeah, it's a bit slowing them down.
Yeah, and that's what nerfs should be, at least in my opinion. Nerfs should tone it down, not kill it completely. So I'm okay with this change.
Okay.
And I'm saying this as a victim of so many topaz comps. Because on the last day, I was around top 100, 150, and every other match was a topaz. So I'm saying this as a victim of the topaz rampage in the last few days of season 3. So I don't know if that adds more credibility, but I hope it does.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Let's move
Runes.
on. Let's move on. Anything else before I move on?
Nope, I'm excited more on the runes.
The runes. Alrighty. We are now moving on to the runes. First is rare runes. So we have a rune that was renamed. All right, let's go over here. First one is called Destiny Leap. So the name was changed. It was Memento Leap. The new effect is this Axie summons gain 14 bonus max HP. When this Axie summons die, deal damage equal to 8% of this Axie's current HP to the closest enemy Axie. This is a very interesting one. Again, this is rare. You have access to this right at the start of the game. So I did a really quick math. 8% of 400 is 32. So if you summon an Axie, or if you summon or if you use a summon card, you gain the benefit of that summon. So if it's a Robin, you get the stacking damage. If you use a Mavis, you get to steal energy and generate extra energy at the end and the start of the turn. If you use it for Trunk, for Mushroom, you get the benefit of the summon. And then when your opponent eventually kills it or it dies its natural death, you deal an extra 32 damage to your opponent. I think it's good because now summons actually have something to use. Because before, summons getting 14 bonus HP doesn't really matter because it still dies to one Earwing. It still dies to a Chubby. Still dies to whatever. The only exception, of course, is Trunk because it has a lot of HP. You have to actually use a 1 energy single target card on it. But now with this, you get a little bit more value out of your summons.
Yeah. And they really want to push Plant as a damaging archetype now, instead of just healing and technically see heal card, see shield card, just use them. So now they want to push it more aggro. Interesting.
Well, I wouldn't say it was more aggro, but definitely more value for sure.
Yeah.
Destiny League. I like it. I like it. Is it enough to make zoo comps a thing? Probably not.
If there is a lot of front to back comps, then zoo is technically a direct counter to them.
True, that is true. Monkey comps will definitely have trouble with this. You put a chump blocker in front of them, they have to waste 1 energy, and then they get damaged for attacking. They get punished for killing a summon, right? So
yeah.
Maybe zoo comps might be a thing. I don't know. Maybe. What I like is that, Sky Mavis is opening up new avenues or new paths or new archetypes. Possibilities for new archetypes. Because this is definitely not going to see mostly use in Epic and Mystic for sure. But at least in Rare, you can experiment with it a little bit, right?
Yeah. Rare when everything else, when
Mhm.
especially the damage is not that huge yet. The
Mm,
14 especially will be more relevant, I guess.
yeah. Mr. Copy, he says that Hollow with that rune is nasty. Sort of yes, sort of no, because again, this is based on 8% of the Axie's current HP. So if you use Hollow, you lose 75 HP, or is that 70? 75, right?
Yeah.
So you kind
21.
of lose a little bit of the damage that you get from Destiny Leaf, unless you heal up the Axie that casted it. But you know, it's not directly useful because you have to heal the HP back up. But yes,
Mhm.
definitely interesting. Definitely interesting for summons. Maybe this is what will make Turnip become viable. Turnip is just it's just a terrible card right now because no one's using summons. But now maybe with Destiny Leaf, maybe summons will become a thing. I don't know. Maybe. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, the next rune that has been changed is Frail Egg. So now it deals 10 damage to the target in addition to applying weak. What are your thoughts on this, Mr. Lunami?
Irrelevant. Okay, I feel I don't know why they put the damage there, but it's kinda not important. Maybe
Mhm.
just to check shields.
Yeah,
But
that's probably it.
uh, the value from Frail Egg is really on the weak.
Mhm.
It it was quite used in Rare Era for AoE also, just
Mhm.
because how it helps a bit against like front to back comms or
Mhm.
even mirrors.
Mhm.
Just how the weak is a lot of HP save,
Mhm.
20%. Other than that, uh, nah. It,
Personally, I think what they did this because Frail Egg does nothing to sustain. It does nothing to poison,
mhm.
right? Because you put weak on them and they don't care. But
Yeah,
now
but
that there's
and
10 bonus damage, it actually does something. It's not, it's not super strong, but it's a rare rune, right? It's not supposed to be super strong. But at least it's not a dead rune when you face sustain or poison or something that doesn't really attack.
yeah, interesting
Mm.
take you have there.
Yeah.
Which actually, if you think about it, then it's quite good
Hmm.
for against shields
Hmm.
because now you know how much shield they have.
Yeah, true.
Mhm.
But you have 1 out of 3 chance on the first turn to hit something. But knowing something doesn't have a shield is just as good as knowing how much shield it has. At least if you have
Mhm.
a comp that if you have an aqua comp that can target the front or the back, right?
Yeah,
So there is still value in this.
I
So
agree.
yeah, I think it's a good change. All right, let's move on. Next one is epic runes. There's 6 of them. All right, let's move on. Let's go to the first one. The first one is Reckless Hunter. Additional damage taken reduced to 10%. It was 15%. Thank you, Guy Mavis.
Mm.
Thank you so much.
Necessary. Yeah, it's just necessary change.
You know, if you're using Reckless Hunter, you put it on the back and you face an Aqua team, you face Koi, you just know you're gonna lose.
Even you face AoE, you instant lose.
Yeah, exactly. Because 15% bonus damage is basically you're giving your opponent a free uh
Vulnerable.
yeah, a free rune. What's that red sword called again? The red sword, the rune.
Pure power.
Yeah, you basically give all of your opponents a pure power rune for free just because you're using this. It was so the people that use this accepted that they are living on the fast lane and they are going to burn. They're either going to win really fast or lose very fast. So I'm glad that they bucked it a little bit.
Yeah, but does it mean it's better than the Aqua or the Bird version.
Mm,
Maybe not, but
yeah,
I guess it still makes it playable
yeah,
as
definitely
compared to
playable. It's,
previous one.
I mean, they're not supposed to be exactly the same because if they are, then it might as well be a neutral win, right?
Mhm.
But this improves the chances for it doesn't feel as bad to use Reckless Hunter as it did before. Because if you use this before, you kind of just accept that your carry is gonna die. But at least with this, it's gonna die maybe one turn slower. So that might make a difference. That might be
Yep.
what you need to win the game. Right? Okay.
Mhm.
Anything else for move on?
No,
No.
we can speed run this because it's minor changes.
Yeah. All right. Pangolin skill 20 now 20%, and it's I don't know. It's probably still not gonna get used.
It's back to old Pango, but old
Mm.
Pango was strong because of the HP charm,
Mm-hmm.
so it makes the effective block much higher.
Yep.
Now without the HP charms, I think it's good, but Last Wish still have more value,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Lord Canton said check announcement. Hold on. Let's go. Uh.
Yeah, I thought rewards are out.
Oh, really? Okay then.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, we better speed this up because the market's gonna be very active. All right. Okay, let's move on. Glorious main base damage per attack increased to 10%. Was 6%. Is it as good as it was when we tested when it was bugged in start of season 3? Probably not. But I don't know. 10% per attack might be what it needs. Still remains to be seen. It's not one of those things that you can just theory craft, right?
Mhm.
It's one of those things that you have to actually test and see how good it is. So I don't know if it got the power boost it needed, but we'll see once we have access to it.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, Aegon, that's definitely what it was supposed to do, but in practice in season 3 it just wasn't fast enough. It was really super slow. It
It
couldn't
got
keep
wrecked by AoE.
Yeah, believe it or not, it was worse than Triple Owl, and Triple Owl is already slow in season 3. So, that says a lot about Glorious Main. But anyway, let's move on to the next one. Leech Shield Stolen reduced to 35%, was 40%. I've seen sustained players become slightly happy. I've seen AoE players become angry because it's not, it's a nerf. But I don't know. Is 5% really that big?
It is about, so for example, they have 300 shield.
Mm-hmm.
That's 5% of 300 is about 15 difference.
Yeah, I don't think it's all that. I don't think this nerf is all that good. I mean, the nerf is all that bad. I mean,
Yeah, it's kind of necessary. I think these small number changes
yeah,
may affect somehow, but it's not really game ending.
yeah, exactly. Same as the 5 bonus damage on Ronin, right?
Mhm.
It may or may not become relevant. Anyway, yeah, it's a it's an okay change, I would say. At least at least sustained players don't have to despair immediately upon seeing Leech. It's still bad for them, but at least it's a little less bad.
Yeah, agree.
That's it. Let's move on.
It's still more playable.
Ooh, Fate Maker. Here we go. Effect triggered by discards from any allied Axie will trigger it. So before it was only the rune owner. When discarding an opponent's card, the card's owner takes damage equal to 3x of the stat reduced. I think this is really. This is one of those things that before the change it was interesting. It was something to explore, but not really something you would use. But now with this change, it's definitely something you should really consider. Like this one.
Yeah, and the fact that it buffs the whole team, as in it triggered by the card of
Yeah.
any galaxy and not just the carrier, is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about how Larva changed earlier.
Yep.
So imagine 3 of you each have larva.
Mm-hmm.
You can cycle so fast, and you can keep buffing each other cards.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be
Yeah.
huge in my own
Right.
opinion.
We just came from season 3 Mystic, and the most obvious team that would take advantage of this is Jinx with discards.
Hmm.
Because they already
Yep.
have the discards, they already have the parasites, they already have. But then again, they only use the discards on the second cycle, so by the second cycle, the game is already over. So I don't know if it actually made for them, or maybe a brand new archetype would emerge for this rune, like discards that or a discarder team that goes hard on the discards from turn one or from the first cycle. I don't know. Maybe.
Hmm. Because the discard here not only for opponents but also for your own axis, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So imagine, for example, like ramping teams, Owl or Nas, that okay, I don't want to play other cards, right? Then I'll just discard it, which is good in a sense you can keep getting your Nuts or Owls,
Mm-hmm.
but your other cards also getting buffed at the same time.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
there's
flexible.
there's also an argument to be made about Twin Tail on a sustain team,
Yeah, interesting thing.
right? Twin Tail on a Fate Maker. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be put on the adaptive mech for the sustain team, right? But maybe one bug, instead of having CNP, you have Fate Maker instead. Maybe something to explore.
And you get stronger over time.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And let's see, if you have square T's, you can the Mantis Claw. You can also get discards on that.
Hmm.
So there's definitely a lot of potential here because of this change.
Yeah,
Again,
I like this change.
it's another emerging or a possible viable archetype to come out. As a poison player from V2, I absolutely abhor discarder teams because they were direct counter to my poison team, my jumping poison team. But I can still appreciate the creativity that went into it. So maybe in Origins, maybe discarder teams might have a resurgence. I don't know. Maybe we'll see, right?
Yep, we'll see.
All right, let's move on. Next up is Healing Force. AoE damage per living ally reduced to 3 damage. Was 4. Card text updated for clarity. Solo. When your turn starts, heal all allies for 8 HP. And for each living ally, deal 3 damage to all enemies. So, this card text clarity is basically describing what it actually did. Because before it was a little confusing, unless you used it. But now it's been nerfed. So instead of doing 12 damage to all enemy axes, it's now only doing 9. So that is effectively from 60 value every turn passive, it's now only 51.
Yeah, still minor number changes, but huge, I think, for me, especially in the long run.
Yeah.
But to be honest, Healing Force, the value I see is from the heal,
Yeah, it's it's in the name. It's in the name.
which especially heals summons.
True.
Yeah. So I don't know if this change is going to affect Healing Forces in any way, but yeah, definitely a good one that
Yeah.
doesn't really kill the rune.
Yeah, it tones it down again. It tones it down without killing it. Because again, Healing Force, when I was using it for my Owl team, I was using it to check for shields, so I know if my opponent is using Scaly Spoon or not. That's what I was using it for. The damage was nice, but I was mostly using it for the shield check. And in my poison team, it definitely helped the aggro aspect of my team because I was using an aggro poison with glare, right? So
Yeah.
For that specific team, it definitely hurts because I'm doing 9 less AoE damage, right? So it's a nerf to people or to teams that use Healing Force for its offensive properties. But for people that use it for the healing, for example, like you said, for keeping summons alive, they're unaffected. So overall, I think it's a good nerf.
I agree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, okay, let's move on. Next change. Oh, for mystics. All right, we have 6 mystic changes. I think this is the last batch, right? The last batch of changes. All right. First one is a brutal claw. When creating blood storms, reduce bleed turns on the target by 1. It used to be 3. Brutal claw was one of those runes that didn't really get used. People experimented with it, but it was terrible. It was so slow. No one used it seriously in the top 100. Probably because it couldn't cut it. I remember seeing a few people trying to make it work. They ended up dropping out of the top 100. So
Yeah.
maybe with this change, maybe it's what it needed. Maybe it's what it needs to become viable.
The hard thing was to make the 6 stacks, which is a requirement to proc the plus storm.
Mm-hmm.
So even with Hidden Razor, you technically need 2 cards at least to reach 6, and then the third card will proc the Bloodstorm.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it was removing 3 cards
Mm-hmm.
and 3 turns.
Yeah.
And 3, to get 3 back, you need another chubby with Hidden Razor. Else, if it's just a normal chubby, then it won't
Yeah.
even go up to above 6.
Mm-hmm.
So in that regard, you need to waste 1 card to get it above 6, and then another card to proc the Bloodstorm.
Yep.
Which was too slow. So I think this change to just reducing 1 turn is much needed. So if you already reach, for example, 2 Hidden Razor, you reach 8.
Mm-hmm.
You reduce 1, you still at 7. So the next turn you can still straight away deal a lot of damage instead of wasting 1 card to push it above a 6 again.
Yeah. The problem with it's a mystic rune. The effect is nice, but you have to jump through so many hoops just to trigger it, and that's not how mystic runes work in Axie. Mystic runes are slap it on and you get so much stronger. When you use Brutal Claw, you feel so much weaker.
Yeah, it's just so slow last season.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to trigger. The requirement is just
way too high. So maybe with this change, it might get used. It might be what the rune needs to achieve its full potential.
Yeah, it's still hard to proc, but I guess it's more rewarding once you reach the condition.
Yeah. Also, looking at chat, Robocop says it was hot trash. I remember trying Brutal Claw with Paralyzing Fang. I lost to plain Fang teams. I mean, you're trying to mix 2 different win conditions into one. I mean, they're sort of related, but they're still way too different mechanics. So it's understandable that you would lose to optimized Paralyzing Glare teams. When Luna says Brutal Claw will now be played with poison, I guess. Debatable, because if you're playing poison teams, you want 2 reptiles and maybe a 3rd reptile or maybe a dawn. I don't know if you can squeeze a beast in there, but I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Maybe a new team will emerge from this change. So you never say never. Right. Zion says you need Chubby Razor with Claw to trigger, and you need Grievous just to make it work. Yeah, so that's 3 energy. No, that's 4 energy you need to do just to make it work once. That's kind of bad for a Mystic, right?
Super high requirement. That's why.
Yeah. Robocop says it feel like it should synergize, but yeah. Maybe with this change, Brutal Claw will become its own thing, not a supplement to another archetype. Maybe Bleeds will become a thing in Mystic. I don't know. We'll find out when the Mystic season comes in season 4. All right, let's move on to the next one. Feather Descent. Feathers gained when your turn starts increase to 2. Formerly it was 1. So that's a 50% buff to what Feather Descent does. Nothing about the rune was changed. Oh, 100% correct. Sorry. We've been talking for way too long. My brain is not working. But yeah, it's now double. You gain two. I don't know if that's enough to make feather if it's worth taking feather descent over sacred feather, at least for birds.
He does not know.
Maybe, I don't know, because okay, the way I see it, feather descent is something that you would put on an unoptimized owl. Because, for example, I have one, right? I have an owl that cannot generate its own feathers. For the horn slot, it has eggshell. For the back slot, it has, what was that card? I forgot what it was, but it's it was Cupid. It was Cupid. So
Oh,
I have no way to generate feathers on that Axie by itself. So if I have feather descent, all I have to do is wait 2 turns, and then I can use my feather fan, right?
yeah.
Or
Okay,
it,
he does not know. But okay.
okay, well,
I think this is a very good buff.
okay.
Not because of, oh yeah, it partly because of the change from 1 to 2, but
Mm-hmm.
because it procs the feather daggers when you reach 10, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
literally reduces the number of turns you need to get
Oh,
to it
okay.
by half.
True. True.
So my an interesting theory I have is to run this as a double carry with Raven's tactic.
Okay.
And you can run this on an owl, but the feather descent carrier must be a support, like those with Innocent Lamb Cloud,
Mm-hmm.
Feather Spear, and Dry Feather.
Okay.
So if you remember, this team was used in season 1 with EA,
Mm-hmm.
double carry with EA.
Mm-hmm.
And it works similarly just with Ramping Owl instead. So how it
Mm-hmm.
works is Owl takes so long to ram, right? But having Feather Descent carrier, especially with the spear changes, you can get up to 10 really easily, like maybe every 2 turns even.
Yeah.
And the free feather daggers will be the source of your pressure until your owl ramps up.
True. That's a good point.
Yeah, so that's my theory crap.
Okay. If you put this on a support, so let's say it goes to the mid.
Yep.
If you have no other sources of feather generation, you get your feather daggers at round 5, right?
Yes.
Round 5, your mid should still be alive. I would hope.
Yeah, but that's assuming no
You
other
don't,
feather gens,
yeah,
right?
yeah, that's true.
But you see Cloud and Innocent Lamb Cloud, for example, already give you
Mhm.
4. No feather spear. Even if your owl carrier use the spear,
Mhm.
the feather descent carrier, if he has spear, also get
Yeah.
3 spears.
Mhm. True,
So
true.
that's and tri feather give feathers to all allies. So that's
Mhm.
how fast your feather descent carrier will reach 10. And
True.
that alone already give a lot of damage, right?
Yeah,
We're talking about face value,
Mhm.
at least 60 damage face
Mhm.
value.
Yeah. And it has a also an interaction with the rework on Cloud, because if you draw Cloud on round 3, you already have 6 feathers on this, assuming no other feather gen, so that's another feather dagger that you get, right?
Yeah, and good thing that about Cloud is it's written, right? So
Yeah.
if you already reach 10,
Mm-hmm.
last time your Cloud, oh, what do I do with my Cloud?
Yeah, you can
But now it's
reload.
written, so you
Yeah.
can wait the next turn
Mm-hmm.
and play your Cloud,
Mm-hmm.
then runs really fast.
Yeah,
That's why I
true.
think double carry Feather Descent Raven will work.
It's a very interesting take. Thank you for that, Mr. Luna. I didn't consider that. I mean, obviously, you're a much better bird enthusiast than I am. All right, looking at chat, when Luna says birds are the only missing class in season 3 Mystic Top leaderboard, owls are being used by beasts and plants. That is absolutely true. It's kind of sad when your class cards are better used by other other classes. Winghorn is better used by bugs, beasts, and mechs, and owl is better used by plants and beasts. So there's definitely something wrong with your runes if if your best cards are better used by other or other classes. I don't know if Feather Descend is the rune that will shift that. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But at least it got buffed because it's one of the more cheaper Mystic runes, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, even okay, if we go to the next one, talking
All right,
about
next one.
Raven, why
Okay.
Raven is kinda okay now. So
Mm-hmm.
last time it was reset to 0, right?
Yeah.
After every turn. Now it's base 15.
Mm-hmm.
So face value wise, it's not too bad, but
Mm-hmm.
not good enough to be epic
Mm-hmm.
at 15% lead, but 45% is huge.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, interestingly, one of my axes sold at the early when the patch straight announced, and that Axie was the Axie I used Raven tactic with in last season. Like, I tried to make it work, but
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
How that Axie is good is because I don't run triple owls with it, but I
Mm-hmm.
still run the spears,
Mm-hmm.
tri-feather, and feather fan because those
Yep.
are the high pressure cards for birds, right? It's high damage. So the idea was you feather spear.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you tip your feather fan, right? But
Mm-hmm.
one feather spear, and then you can straight away use your feather fan. Kind of maximum damage without even needing to build up feathers, just because of the 45% buff.
Mm-hmm.
Almost max damage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so without running owls, I run full damage on the 3 other body parts.
Yep.
Like single target damage is also fine because it's 45% flat. So uh that bird was so good, but yeah, it's sold. I'm so sad right now.
Yeah.
Especially it's sold right after the patch comes out.
Oh no. Well, that's the risk we have to take for when we
Yeah.
list Axes. Right. So one of the things I noticed is that birds have two offensive runes for Mystic. So if you look at it, Raven's tactic is intended to be used for the high damage ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's percentage based, so you want the newly buffed post fight and the newly buffed last one could really take advantage of the 45% bonus damage, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then on the flip side, AOE, not AOE, multi hits, triple owl, the trumps get more value out of Feather Descent. So I think you have an option to choose between which method is more beneficial for your team. Do you want the feathers, the flat damage bonus from the feathers, or do you want the percentage based bonus from Raven's tactic?
Yeah. Correct. So I guess Raven's tactic, if on AoE again I did the math, only works on feather fan, but if it's on a single target, yes, it works wonder. Again, you mentioned post fight, especially not to forget the Mystic Charm for birds. Imagine 90 base damage plus 45% plus other runes buff,
Yep,
and
and
then you
other
splash.
charms. Yep,
Oh my god.
yeah. So imagine this, but you get the extra damage from Heaven's Echoes and maybe even a pure instinct on one support. I don't know. That's probably too many, too many
Yeah.
support runes, but the possibility is there for sure.
Yeah, and the 2 hits is not actually hard to get because
Mm-hmm.
bird have naturally you will want to run Kestrel
Mm-hmm.
or Feather Spear as the horn, which already
Yep.
gives you 2 hit.
Mm-hmm.
And additionally, early bird I think is a good support
Yep.
because early bird gives you a card draw and it's also 2 hits.
Mm-hmm.
It would be best if the rest are like high burst cards or maybe another multi hit that has high base damage
Mm-hmm.
to fully make use of that 45%.
Yeah, I mean
Owl doesn't
you
get that.
can even like you said, a Raven's tactic and Feather Descent could work together, and you can
Yeah.
have a triple Feather Spear team.
Mhm.
Take advantage of the healing provided. I mean, it's obviously very low heal, but
Yeah, the heal is not the purpose in this, I
yeah,
guess.
you get you use Feather Spear, you're at max capacity or max damage for your next two damage cards, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think the heal is really just to help you a bit against AoE, but yeah, it doesn't really help.
Yeah.
Well,
But yeah, I mean, it's I think it's intended to be you get really strong damage from your single hit attack cards, but you don't get benefit from your feathers. I think that's the reasoning behind the healing and the removal of the feathers.
mhm.
But yeah. All right, I think we've talked about Raven's tactic long enough. Let's move on to the next rune.
Yes.
All right, next one is Metamorphosis. Damage dealt per cocoon increased to 7% of the rune owner's shield was 5%. So what was the original Metamorphosis? Was it 7 or was it 10%? I don't remember.
No, it was 5.
No. Before it was changed to 5 before the start of the season. What was it before the season?
Oh,
It was 10% before? Okay.
yeah, it kept 10%.
So it was 10%. It was good, maybe too good. They nerfed it to half. It became unusable. Now
Mhm.
they're putting at 7 because it can't be put at 7.5 because Axie doesn't deal with fractions. So maybe 7% is a good a good, compromise.
Mhm.
Maybe 7.
I'm not a
Mm.
P2P player, so I'm not really sure what this change, but it's decent, I guess, because Metamorphosis wasn't really anywhere.
Mm.
I'm not sure how big is that 5% to 7%, but yeah,
Mhm.
I guess it's a good change.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm waiting for. I mean, Machizo says that metamorphosis is good with poisons now. I'm waiting for JJ to chime in because I personally haven't done the math to just to know if this is good or not. I'm not really interested in playing sustain teams, so I don't know. Let's go back to this once we have JJ in the chat. Maybe even Ikondo. Ikondo liked this when it was 10%. Said it was terrible when it was 5%. Maybe I don't know. If he comes in, we can ask him what he thinks of the 7%. But until then, it's a buff. Oh, you're here, JJ. Oh, what's your take on the 7%? The buff to 7%. Is it good? Is it bad? Or it doesn't matter? Zion said it's still bad. Okay. You'd rather have shield backup instead of metamorphosis. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. All right. Okay then. In that case, we should move on. It's buff, but it's still not good enough for our resident sustained players. Okay, hold on. When Luna says 7 is 70% of starting shield max. If you have 200 shield and no damage taken by the bug, you will have 100 shield next. And that 70 AoE damage. Hopefully, some comp will emerge from this. Maybe. That's a very important distinction. All right, so JG says shield backup procs your adaptive. Metamorph does not. That's a very important distinction because you get 20% more if you're using adaptive. If you're using metamorphosis, you don't really get you only rely on the cocoon.
Yeah,
It's a
interesting thing.
very important distinction. All right then. Okay, our resident sustain player says it's still bad. Okay, let's move on. Soul Eater. Oh boy, here's a spicy one. All right. Soul Eater triggers when your turn starts was when the rune owner played ability. So bonus base stat is granted to all allied Axies. Before it was only the rune owner. Right. So to really appreciate this change, we have to go here and look at the rune in its current state. What? Come on, scroll. I guess I can't scroll. Dusk is all the way down here. Can I click it? Can I interact? There you go. All right. So Soul Eater, when played, this Axie's abilities consume 66 HP from the lowest HP ally, then gain 6% base stat. This is terrible because when you use Soul Eater, the only beneficiary of the effect is the carrier of the rune. But now that it affects the entire team, it opens up so much more room for innovation. So imagine you have an aggro team that constantly gets bonus stats just for it existing. So let's say this existed for 3 rounds. All of your cards now have 18% bonus stats.
Yeah. And for me, the biggest change is on now it only triggers once the minus 66 HP.
Mm-hmm.
It was anytime the owner plays a card, which it was bad because
Mm-hmm.
firstly, you forced that Axie to play his cards
Yeah.
and keep losing HP every time,
Yep.
which doesn't really make sense. Why do you
Mm-hmm.
want your carry to go low except for maybe shielding comms? Which is
Mm-hmm.
why I think Solita was only good for shielding comms, but they have much better runes to play with. But now this works for aggro because it only triggers
Mm-hmm.
one
Yep.
and buff the entire team.
Yep. So what I'm imagining is Soul Eater, and you don't even have to use the Soul Eater's Axie's card. So this can work with Glorious Main. So if you use the Glorious Main, the way Glorious Main works is that it looks at the current base stat of the card, and then it adds 10% or whatever percent is the Glorious Main gives on top of it. So at the start
Mhm.
of your turn, you get 6% bonus stat, and then you get 10% on top of the current value. So I think
Yeah,
that this the most obvious combination to me when I saw this was that use it with Glorious Main.
and I like it too with Fate Maker just for the memes.
Yep.
We buff the entire team indefinitely.
That's too much ramping. Too much ramping. But yes, that is correct. Imagine that. So there's definitely a new archetype coming out with Soul Eater, for
Yep,
sure.
it's more playable in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay, so looking at chat, JJ saying that the first thing that stood out to me is sustain. I mean, that's obvious because you're a sustain player, JJ. But yes, if you're playing a sustain team, you have the options of healing that 66 HP lost. That
Yeah,
is that is an option available to you. I mean, you can even combine it with I don't know, plant runes that gives extra healing and stuff, right? I mean, there's definitely a lot of possibilities with this rune. It can be used for aggro, it can be used for sustain. So there's a lot of possible use for this. I mean, before it was mostly used to fast track the use of Snake Jar, but even then it was terrible because you you take 66 HP, heal it for 60, so you're still with 6 HP deficit, but you get extra. I don't know. It was a mess. It was too complicated. No one was using it because it was too complicated. It wasn't even effective. So it ended up not getting used at all. But
yeah,
now, holy moly, this is a rune to watch
um,
out for sure.
yeah, definitely have some potential.
Yeah, yeah. I like this change. Very much needed change. All right, let's move on. Next one is Shady Exchange. Energy fragments are lost at the end of turn until round 2. Previously, it was round 3. Energy fragments at the start of turn after round 2. So it was round 3. All right, let's go back to looking at the card effects. All right, so Shady Exchange. Oh, let's move that over here. Right. So until round 3, when your turn ends, lose up to 2 energy fragments. After round 3, when your turn starts, you gain 3 fragments. So now the effect or the lost fragments ends one whole turn faster. One whole turn. I am both happy and sad. Happy because Shady Exchange might get used now. I'm scared because Shady Exchange was just way too strong in its initial iteration. But maybe now it's a little closer to what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, it definitely is like it was. You need rounds to ROI last time because you lost six. You lost 6 fragments
Yeah,
there
yeah.
for the first 3. Then you
Okay.
gain 6 fragments for the next 2 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
But now you only need 4 turns to
Mm-hmm.
ROI. Yeah, so you lost 4 in the first 2, then you gain 3, then the fourth turn you already ROI and profit, right?
Yep.
So that's a lot. For example, okay, in bid comms, we don't talk about it because they are so long. Their matches are so long in the first place, anyways.
Yep.
But for example, on aggro, from 5 turns to 4, that definitely make a lot of change. Okay, not aggro, maybe aggro. You just want to go fast. You don't
Yeah.
want your energy gone in the first place. But maybe for mid range, that is trying to be pumped with a lot of the card changes we saw earlier. Maybe mid range is getting value from this shady exchange.
Yeah. The way I look at this is it's not meant for because I was looking at chat. JJ says it's not meant for sustain, which I agree with. I don't think this change is going to
Yeah,
benefit
adapting much better.
sustain. It's more geared towards something like Navaga, right? You gain a lot more from Shady Exchange when if you're using a Navaga team, or maybe even well, my first thought was Perch, but then you don't really. It doesn't do anything for Perch actually, because
Yeah,
by
first you
round
want to finish
3,
the game by round 3, right?
yeah, and you're not getting any value from this until round 3, which by which point that's already the point where you want to end the game. So there's absolutely nothing for Perch on Shady Exchange, but maybe on just tempo teams, I guess. Like
Yeah, kind of mid-rangey.
yeah, mid-range tempo teams. Maybe even on I don't know, like on a glorious main, because you don't gain fragments on your glorious main, right? Maybe you can make it up with Shady Exchange.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
We are theory crafting.
Yeah, we are. So I mean, there's definitely a lot more application for Shady Exchange. I think.
Yeah.
It's still not going to be the best rune ever like it was before, because if you remember in season 0, Shady Exchange was basically on everything. If you're not using
Yeah.
Shady Exchange, you're gonna lose because you lose out on so much value, right?
Energy is king.
Yeah, Shady Prayer was a thing in season 1, season 0 even. So now that it's not, maybe we get to use this without it being terrible and without it being broken. I don't know. Maybe. Guys, I'm just throwing out ideas. I'm not sure if it's viable or not, Mr. Coffee. But yes. I mean, maybe? I don't know. But yeah, let's move on. Let's move on to the next one. Next one is Holy Prayer. Ooh, such a spicy change. Very, very spicy. Right, the Holy Prayer. Curse cards removed at the start of your turn reduced to 1. It was 2. Bonus stats gained increased to 15%. It was 10. This is the topic, or this is the one point of contention most people have, because the most popular curse comp is Jinx, and this is why people are saying Jinx is going to win season 4, because Holy Prayer got nerfed. What are your thoughts, Mr. Leunammi?
Yeah, right. So Topaz is low-key countered by Jinx
True.
because Topaz comes want to cycle their deck fast, right? And
Yes.
having this Jinx, random Jinx,
Mm-hmm.
is kind of bad, slowing down their tempo by a lot.
Yep.
That's why most of Topaz comms initially
Mm-hmm.
run Holy Prayer.
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, the Holy Prayer was used to banish random cards like you oh no like unstable. They put unstable string
Mm-hmm.
on the cards that they don't need. Then Holy Prayer will basically help cleaning that stuff away.
Yep.
But with this 2-1, it kinda support Jinx in terms of countering Topaz.
Yeah.
But again, Topaz have the upper hand
Anyway, yeah, because they're super
because
fast.
they are just front to back comms and
Yeah.
they are fast.
Well,
So
debatable on front to back, but go on.
oh yeah, again, no need front to back also can, just as long as they kill one and
Mm-hmm.
technically Jinx powerhouse is reduced by a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so in this sense, the 15% can help you achieve to kill that one faster, but losing out on this, which is actually for me, I don't feel much nerve for this against Jinx comp because of that aspect that you help kill one Axie faster. Of course, unless you run AoE, which is naturally countered by Jinx, right?
Yeah.
But on BetK comps, I can see why this is an issue because BetK don't benefit much from this 15% because Jinx deals
I
pure
mean,
damage.
they do get a little bit extra shield from it.
Yeah, but Jinx deals pure
Yeah.
damage, right?
Yeah.
So I think the Holy Prayer is still playable, especially you are aggro and you don't want to. This one is still better than none, right? And 15% just helps you to kill Jinx
Yeah.
faster so that it reduces their powerhouse even more.
Yeah.
So it kind of helps aggro to deal with Jinx still somehow. So Topaz is still may still benefit from this in that sense. But yeah, other than that, BitK comps that rely on Holy Prayer to fight Jinx matchup will suffer from this
Yeah. All right.
change.
Okay. I definitely agree with you. And from a season 3 perspective, this is the worst thing Sky Mavis has ever done. This is the worst nerf Sky Mavis has ever done from a season 3 perspective. But
Yeah.
if I'm looking at this from a meta perspective, like a game design perspective, if changing one rune from 2 to 1 is going to upset your entire meta, maybe that one thing is overtuned.
Yeah, correct.
If you think about it, people are up in arms over this change because it was the entire meta was built on top of it, if in a way. If you really think about it, people are mad because the entire foundation of their team or the entire foundation of the meta was built on top of it, and now that it was changed, it was nerfed, everything around it crumbles. That means you can't put Holy Prayer and have 80% win rate against Jinx. You can't put Holy Prayer and then Topaz doesn't have a counter. You can't put Holy Prayer and then suddenly your Navaga team is immune to everything. You're just free to do whatever you want. Right?
Which reminds me of a point that 1437 raised last time when Origin was still so broken. He said something like the most overpowering thing about and the most broken thing about Axie right now is just how strong the runes are. And the bad thing is runes are passive. And it completely reduce the amount of thinking required, the amount of in-game decision making required, just because the strongest thing in the game is passive and you have it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So another thing is I'm looking chat again because you see JJ say Holy Prayer is necessary because Jinx is overtuned without it. Topaz doesn't have a counter but itself, all right. So that is objectively incorrect, or I would disagree on a fundamental basis, JJ, because people are very happy to use White Sage, but for some reason, using Bean's Blessing they're allergic to using Bean's Blessing. Because the tools are there. The tools are there. Puppy was buffed so that both effects will always happen. Lotus was, Lotus is Lotus. Hungry Bird was changed to also remove curses. And Bean's Blessing has been available since Rare Era. So the tools are there. But for some reason, people want to avoid it, or there's absolutely no reason to use those tools because Holy Prayer was just way too good.
Yeah. To add on your point, right? Jinx overpowered. It's yes,
Mhm.
they are disruptive in a sense because we are
Mhm.
playing a card game and having your deck so thick
Mhm.
with useless cards is of course very
Mhm.
strong in any card game, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, my com specifically beats Jinx com more 80-90% of the time without
Mhm.
running Holy Prayer,
Mhm.
and I'm just using the tech that is there, Hungry Bird.
Mhm.
But why is it not good? Just because uh the matchup point of view, I lost to AoE, and AoE is the most common thing in the
Mhm.
season.
Yeah.
So I guess in that sense, what I'm trying to say is the matchup is more apparent in this case, right? That kinda this this archetype will beat this archetype, and
Mhm.
this archetype will beat the other archetype. Will be kind of more balanced in a sense when you make Jinxes have no quote unquote
Mhm.
instant counter with Holy Prayer.
Mhm.
So the archetype will play more of a role in this sense.
Yeah. And I'm looking chat again, and RoboCop and Zion said that they'd be okay with using beans if it was playable on attack cards. So that is definitely something that could change. Maybe they can change Bean's Blessing to be usable on attack cards because
But
I mean Hungry Bird is an attack card and it removes curses, right? So maybe we can
but
petition for that. I don't know.
it's weird, right? Because technically,
Mhm.
talking about matchup perspective, Hyper Aggro should win Jinxes just because how fast they kill
True. Yeah.
Jinx. So there is no need for running Bean Spacing on attack cards in the sense if you are running
Mm.
Hyper Aggro.
I mean, yes, for hyper aggro, but how about
Yeah, but like
regular scuffed aggro?
yeah, but like for slower ones or maybe Shield, for example, if Holy Prayer doesn't exist, of course you will get countered by Jinx,
Hmm.
and I think that's the idea why they put
Hmm.
Jinx Bean's Blessing on shielding or heal.
Hmm. Yeah.
But at the same time, running that on a shielding team really sucks because it stops your adaptive to get much value. It increases your chance to lose against aggro, which you should win.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's so hard. Or if it's put on attack card, then arguably AoE will be strong because Jinx supposedly counter AoE,
Hmm.
and now AoE have
They have a
a
holy prayer.
card, yeah, attacks to
Yeah.
kill the counter, right?
Yeah, I mean those are all completely valid points, but again, it's we're hoping for something that might not happen. So
Yeah.
I think we should just we should just move on.
Mhm.
But yeah, you raise really valid points. I don't know. Maybe Sky Mavis sees this. I hope they do, and I don't know. Maybe they change Bean's Blessing into modify any. Maybe I don't know. Hopefully, but that's a topic for another time. We
Yeah.
still have a few runes to go, so let's move on to the next one. Mystic Charms, the last two slides. All right, kind of
To be
kind of
honest,
anticlimactic, but we're
yeah,
but
these ones are really meh.
Hale maybe could have put Mystic Charms first before that. But whatever, it's fine. All right, Mad Moon Mask bonus base attack increased to 30%, was 25. It's just a straight up buff. I don't think it's gonna be more expensive because of it, or it's gonna be used a lot more than because of it. But maybe because Glorious main is buff, maybe this might get used now. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe.
But we are playing in a game where energy is king.
True.
That's
So
why Cottontail is
hmm,
everywhere.
yeah, I don't know. Mad Moon probably. I mean, it's only gonna be using Glorious main teams, so
Yeah.
they don't they don't gain fragments regardless. So it's just a straight up 30% without drawback because the drawback already exists. All right. Anyway, let's move on. Last one. Oak Bud. Shield cards heal 40% of shield granted. Very nice. Attack cards heal 40% of unblocked damage. Probably not as nice. So
I never see this rune in
I
play, so I don't know how.
haven't seen it either. When I first saw this, I thought it was support for healing pulse, but then no one used healing pulse because poison glare was just too strong.
Yeah,
So I don't know if this will become a thing now.
I don't think so, but we'll see
Well, yeah. Uh,
people experimenting with it.
it's really anticlimactic that we're into this. But all right. Okay. Four questions. Number
Yes.
one. Do you think Topaz has been nerfed enough?
Optimized one, nope.
Mhm.
Unoptimized one, also nope.
Okay.
Just because, okay, the strength of Topaz is the consistency of the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Just because how thin it is and how consistent you can keep getting your high damage cards.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing that addresses this except maybe Holy
Mm-hmm.
Prayer nerf.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's still consistently dealing high damage.
Mm-hmm.
So nope, it's not nerf.
I
But
mean,
it's fine-tuned a bit,
yeah. I
but
mean,
it's still strong.
okay, so RoboCop says yes for sure because it now loses to Jane. That's a
In that
nerf
aspect.
to Holy Prayer, not necessarily to Topaz. But I mean, if you guess, I guess if you consider Topaz as a whole, definitely the card itself wasn't nerfed, but the supports for it definitely got nerfed. So,
But even in the final few days of
mhm,
Mystic Era, we see a lot of uh variations of Topaz that don't
mhm.
run Holy Prayer.
True.
They run EA instead and play
Yeah.
more of OTK kind of style.
Mm-hmm.
So that, in that sense, is not nerf.
Mm-hmm.
So
True. True. So it depends on the build. If you're reliant on Holy Prayer, then definitely nerf.
mhm.
Otherwise, yeah, other variants are safe. Right. Next question, number two. Do you think AoE got nerfed too hard, or is it just fine? What do you think?
It is just fine in my opinion.
Mhm.
But it definitely helps a lot in rare and epic era, so that they don't really deal a lot of massive damage. Literally in rare and epic, it's literally AOE or Jinx last time. Even Poison was struggling to catch up, right? With
Mhm.
AOE, how
Yeah.
much AOE. Yeah. So it is fine tuned, but I don't think it's necessary that. I think it will still be good, especially. Yeah, there's so much of them and they're so cheap right now. So I think it's a okay non-financial advice, but it's quite a safe
Hmm.
pick for someone who wants to do decently well. Maybe around top 2K, top 3K AOE still decent.
Hmm.
It's not that obviously.
Okay, that's fair. I agree. I really
Yeah,
think AoE is still really good. It's still going to be the king of Tiger. For sure.
yeah, yeah. Especially reading the chat, Mr. Coffee raised a good
Mm.
point. Winghorn, which is arguably its most
Yeah, it's
powerful card, is
yeah.
still left as it is.
Hmm.
Not saying that it is overpowered as of now,
Hmm.
but yeah, as I mentioned earlier, that slight change in Earwing
Hmm.
may cause the AoE to take one turn later to
Yeah,
reach that threshold, which
yeah.
is good in a sense. Good
It
change.
might
It
make
doesn't kill it.
yeah. It's going to be the difference of winning by round 3 or 4. You know
Yeah.
when they do their 5 energy turn or not, because they
Mm.
might use their 5 energy turn to just put everyone below 50%. So might it might or might not depending on the draws, which is the nature of card games. All right.
Mhm.
Question number three. Do you think Jinx will win season 4?
Uh, I would say no,
Mm-hmm.
because just because the counter of that is quite direct, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. Like it's easy to figure out, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
very sure the pro players
Mm-hmm.
will be ready for that.
Yeah.
And damage wise, they are not uh like instant win a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They are still the deck that is reliant on draw. which is like yeah, you rely on your opponent to drop jinxes.
Mm-hmm.
Else your deck is so slowed by a lot. Imagine drawing the jinx one turn later. It can mean you are dead, or yeah, or your the damage comes later, right?
Mm-hmm.
So jinx is still RNG based, and
Yeah.
I believe to be good in ladder when there's a lot of different matchups, you shouldn't rely on RNG, and that is why Topaz is strong, right? Because it has so minimum of that RNG factor because how thin your deck is. So I believe Jinx will not dominate, but will it be strong? Yes, definitely it will be very, very strong.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I agree. All right, the last question. What what is the what archetype are you watching out for? Or what do you think is going to be the most interesting or most fun archetype? Knowing that, there's going to be new stuff coming out. What is the one team that you're looking out for? Is it Feather Spear or is it something else?
If I want to be biased, it will be my double carry birds with Raven and Feather Descent.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because I'm biased to birds.
Okay.
Talking about me being not biased, I would really like for Nevaga comms being strong, or even I can see how guides front to back com or hyper aggro comms be very strong also.
Yeah.
Yeah, hyper aggros. That's for
Personally,
me.
I am looking forward to the discarders. Fate
Ooh,
Maker stuff.
interesting tech.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Fate Maker because it's just such an interesting mechanic,
Yeah.
and it's out of control for your opponent. They can't react to you discarding them,
Mhm.
and there's some fun to be had of you discarding your opponent's cards, and they can't do anything. All they can do is look at despair. Oh no, my little branch is now 10% weaker.
Yeah,
There's some sort of sadistic fun that you can have with
I agree. I think yeah, discard, especially if you remember last season,
Mhm.
the counter to Topaz comms are actually discarding their Topaz, right?
Yep.
So what if that archetype by itself is it's no longer a support archetype, but
Yeah.
carry archetype on its own?
Yeah. And based on my observation, whenever patch notes come out, people speculate on what is going to be the strongest comp. This is going back to question number 3. If you remember in season 1, no one thought of Rage as being. I mean, there were a few people that thought Rage was going to be the king, but before that, everyone's talking about bubbles, right? How strong bubbles are, how strong one hit Hoto kills are, right? If you remember, before Hoto got nerfed,
Yeah.
everyone was talking about Hoto. So when it got changed, that's when the Rage teams came out.
Mm-hmm.
In season 2, everyone was thinking of what was everyone thinking of season 2?
Season 2, I think, was also Bubblecom,
Mm.
the version where you use Nemo ears.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nemo ears, then
Oh,
you
right, right,
run
right,
using
right.
Sponge
Yeah.
because it directly counters AoE
Mm-hmm.
until it was, I think, the final season. The final winner was still AoE, right? The one with
Yeah. It was the shrimp AOE that won season 2. It was
yeah, Shrimp
1437.
AoE.
Yep. And then when season 3 patch notes came out, people were looking at poison and sustain, right?
Mm-hmm.
People were saying it's going to be a sustained season. People were saying it's going to be a poison season because of Glare. No one even thought about Topaz at the start of the season. And then it came out of nowhere and won the season, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just based on historical data, the most obvious winner of the season is not going to win. So I think it's probably not going to be Jix. I think it's going to be an archetype that we've never seen before.
Yeah, that
Maybe
will be interesting to
discards.
watch, right?
Maybe spears. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe classic front to back.
Maybe rage teams make a comeback. Maybe triple nut becomes really strong. I don't know.
Glorious Min with Soul Eater combo, you
Yeah,
mean?
but what I know is even with Holy Prayer being nerfed, people will adapt and people will spec against curses. So I don't
Yeah,
think Jinx is going to win. I could be
yeah,
wrong,
I agree.
but we'll see. We'll see. Let's meet up again after season 4. We'll go back through these questions and then let's see how it goes. All right.
Sure. That'll be interesting to see who's the best theory crafter.
Yeah. All right. Hale, thank you for making the slides. Hale is in the chat. Thank you, thank you. Believer, Hale says Believer is going to win the season. I don't know about that, but that is something to talk about in the next. In the next. I guess this is going to be a seasonal thing going forward.
Glad. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Leunammi. Thank you, everyone in Twitch. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you've reached this point, thank you so much for watching the entire thing. I know that's 2 hours of just listening to me talk, me and Leunammi talk. But thank you, thank you. All right. So everyone, thank you so much. If you're watching this on Twitch, hold on. We will rate out. But if you're watching this YouTube, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. For now, guys. I'm Mr. Leunammi. Any parting
Bye.
words?
Not for me. I think I said enough. Yeah.
We did. All right. All right. Thank you for watching.
Okay.
And yeah, bye bye for now.
Bye.